And welcome back to Sports the NEMO Way, the Shaquille O'Neal edition. The 7'1", 325-pound center is a 4-time champ, 1-time MVP, a 15-time All-Star, 14-time All-NBA, playing 19 years in the league after being the number 1 overall pick, and he is a Hall of Famer, with career averages of 23, 11, and 2 on 58% shooting. Now, I will kick to Uncle Doug, who has him ranked the highest of anyone at number 8 overall and number 3 on his centers list. Uncle Doug?
Yeah, well, Shaq was a force to be reckoned with. You start with, even when he first came into the league, he was still good size. But by the time he hit the Lakers and they started winning titles, Shaq was definitely a force to be reckoned with. He was a huge man. He averaged, well, Alex said 23, 7, 10, 9, 2.5. He is 10th all-time on the scoring list, 28,000 plus points. His scoring average is 22nd. He is 16th on the rebound list, his average being 39th. He is actually 9th on the block list, and his block average is 16th. I didn't realize he had quite that many blocks, and I was kind of surprised as many assists as Shaq had. He's not super high on the list or anything. He's in the 200s. But he had over 3,000 assists in his career and actually had a season where he averaged 3.8. He did win an MVP, and a very deserving one. He won that in 2000. He averaged 29.7, 13.6. That was the year he averaged 3.8 assists, half a steal, and 3 blocks. So that's why I have Shaq so high on my list. He did get an MVP. He also has 4 titles, and he was the MVP of 3 of those. So that's why Shaq's up there for me.
All right. Well, that would kick us to Wade, who has him ranked number 9 overall and number 3 on his centers list. But sadly, Wade is not here tonight. It has been a while since Wade missed an episode, though, so it hasn't become a regular thing again yet. But let's hope Wade's back soon. So that will kick us to Drew, who has him ranked identically to Wade at number 9 overall and 3 on his centers list.
Well, Shaq just kept getting bigger, and bigger. We're just gonna go ahead. By the end of his career, he was bigger than 325. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my only comment on Shaq's weight. Probably for now, but Shaq there for a time period there in the early 2000s, he did whatever he wanted in the paint to whoever he wanted in the paint. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it in more detail later, but he was taking Defense Player of the Year DK Mutombo in the finals and dropping 36 tonight. I mean, when Shaq wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted, but that was part of Shaq's problem. Sometimes he didn't want to. I talk about Shaq not showing up to play basketball for him whenever they got out in the playoffs or winning a title, and he doesn't come back till September. He hasn't touched basketball since. I mean, it's just Shaq's mindset wasn't always – he liked to have fun. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Well, that will lead to myself, who has Shaq 10 overall and 4, one spot behind the other guys, on the center list. And I'll try and keep my opening statement pretty short and sweet. Shaq is one of those guys that's very hard for me to judge. Shaq, his highs were very high and his lows were very low. And some things I hate about athletes, Shaq is like a shining star for some of those things. I'll give you an example of some of these things. Shaq won 4 titles. He was also swept 6 times in the playoffs. Shaq was a dominant force who won 2 scoring titles. But he also routinely showed up out of shape, struggled to get along with his teammates, couldn't shoot free throws, and a lot of times was just not engaged. Even the argument of, well, Shaq made his free throws when they counted. Well, Shaq got better when it counted. But the fact that we're pointing to him shooting 60% when it counted and saying, look, he made it when they counted, is just showing us how awful he was normally. Shaq's career free throw percentage is lower than his field goal percentage.
Oh, I bet. I guarantee it.
But, he's fourth all-time in field goal percentage. He's fifth all-time in finals points per game. He has these wonderful, wonderful highs. And then he'll show up out of fat and out of shape and miss a bunch of games because then trying to play into shape, he gets hurt and doesn't really seem to care. And I don't even care that he was trying to rap and trying to act in the offseason. Those things don't bother me. Michael Jordan made a Space Jam in the offseason one year. The difference is he just came back and won a title and wasn't, 100 pounds overweight. But speaking of highs, this is to close up my opening statement. Here are Shaq's finals numbers.
Oh, boy.
In 1995, before he truly became Shaq, when he was with the Orlando Magic, which most people don't really think of when they think of Shaq as Orlando Magic days, but I think that was the best version of Shaq, personally.
I like that version. Much more athletic.
Yeah.
But against Akeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest defensive players ever, he averaged 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. Then, in the 2000 finals, probably Shaq's greatest season ever, he averaged 38 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 assists. In 2001, he averaged 33 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists. And in 2002, he averaged 36 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists. He did always step up his game when it mattered most, and his playoff numbers are superior to his regular season numbers. Shaq showed up when it mattered. I just wish he would have showed up more when it didn't matter as much. Now, that will lead us to Ray, who has him ranked the lowest of anybody at 15 overall and 5 on his centers list. Ray?
Okay, so I kind of broke it down. It's kind of like the 3 phases of Shaq: Magic, Lakers, and the Heat. So for the 4 years he was on the Magic, it was 27, 12, and 2. For the 8 years he was on the Lakers, it was 26, 12, and 2.5. So first 12 years pretty consistent. Then we get to the Heat, 4 years in the Heat, 18, 6, 8, and 2. Still pretty consistent. Not bad. Let's see, notable rosters on each team. Nick Anderson, Horace Grant, Penny, and Dennis Scott for the Magic, which I talked about last episode, and then, Karl Malone episode, that I thought the Magic probably had the best talented team within like the 5 years that he was down there, 4 years. Then we get to the Lakers squad. Notable roster: Kobe, Rick Fox, Fisher, Ron Harper, Robert Horry. And then we have the Heat roster, which is just god awful besides Dwayne Wade.
Don't forget about Wade's Gary Payton.
Oh God.
Hold on. Can I jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ray?
Yep.
I don't know if they were god awful. First of all, they won the finals.
Well,
they had Lonzo Mourning and Antoine Walker and James Posey and Jay Williams and old Gary Payton. Old
Gary Payton. I love it how we always bring it
compared to the other 2 rosters, like you have Udonis Haslem, Michael Doliak, Shandon, Derek Anderson, and then you got a nice prime Wade and a bunch of old guys. So all I was trying to get at is trying to set in motion the rosters, the teams, the consistency of Shaq between the 3 teams. So laying the groundwork there. And then I'm just going to go through the centers that he had to go through between the 3 teams. The finals run with the Magic, he he had to go through the Olajuwon team, and he swept him. But like we just went over, Olajuwon and Shaq pretty much went toe-to-toe with each other in the finals. So he didn't get any titles in the Magic years. So we go to the Lakers. 3 straight titles, 3 straight MVPs in the finals, 1 MVP in the regular season, and the competition isn't as great as it once was. We have a broke down Rick Smits, a past his prime Mutombo, and then we get to the, what was it, New Jersey Nets?
Yeah.
Todd McCullough, Jason Collins, and I also put a nice little note here. They weren't centers, more like sparring partners to Shaq. So, I mean, the competition kind of went down between the mid-'90s and the late 90s. And then we have old out-of-shape Shaquille O'Neal. Somehow got that title. I don't know how they pulled that one off. The centers had to go through for those years was Eric Dampier, Desagna Diop, and DJ Babinga. I don't even know. And that was the Mavericks roster. And that was the Mavericks roster wasn't that great either. It just like nice, decent role players plus Dirk Nowitzki. So with that said, I'm just pointing out that later Shaq went on, the competition wasn't as sprite as it once was. Then we've already went over the finals numbers, which I got here. Let's see. So I guess what I'm asking is, was the competition to the titles, does that kind of outweigh his talent? Or is talent just so good that the competition he just steamrolled? I mean, is there like a balance between the two? Or is it just, I mean, you kind of know what I'm asking?
Well, let me say some stuff, I guess. I never really thought of Shaq not playing good competition. I mean, in some of those finals, the opposing centers weren't very good. That's true. But, I mean, there were other Hall of Famers on the other teams.
I mean, yeah, we got like Iverson and
Reggie, Jason
right.
Kidd, guys like that are on those other teams. The East was weaker at certain points. I don't think that Iverson team or those Kidd teams would have made it in other times in the Eastern Conference. But I think Shaq's biggest competition during that time came out of his own conference when they were trying to go through the Kings and the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
And the big one here is the Spurs.
Right.
Because, we have the Lakers three-peat, but that Lakers three-peat is sandwiched by 2 Spurs titles.
Yeah.
The Spurs won it in 99 in
03.
03. Yeah. So, and then again in 05. So, they, I don't think competition was bad. I think, he played against a lot of Hall of Famers. There's, 4 Hall of Famers on those Spurs teams. I think, no, I don't worry about the competition. I guess that's where I'll leave it.
Okay. I know Shaq's great. Like, the stats, the way he bullied people down low, we've all watched Shaq. But sometimes I have that strange feeling in the back of my head, like, maybe he snuck in right at the right time, came in right at the right time, snuck right past Jordan, and he had a nice little, vacation of 3 straight wins, But, I mean, he got the MVPs. He got the MVP in the regular season. He got the titles. But sometimes in the back of my head, it's just like, maybe if Jordan was there, maybe it's a little more dynamic. Or, if he was going against another Hall of Fame center in the finals to kind of clutch it down, mano a mano type of thing. But he didn't have that. I mean, maybe he went through the competition to get there, but to win the title, he just he didn't have it against himself.
So are we saying like if he'd have came in the league like 6 years earlier and played like the same career timeline as Olajuwon and Robinson and Ewing and Mike, that are you saying like it'd been interesting to see how it played out like that
instead of like the timeline that he got to get to the titles. Like maybe if he went a different timeline, maybe it would maybe he would have got past Jordan, or maybe stuck in Orlando a little longer. Maybe they would have progressed down there and instead of the Kobe Shaq thing, maybe the Magic could have been win a couple instead of the Lakers type of thing, because I mean there was good competition in the West, but if he would have came just a little earlier, I mean you would have had Jordan, kept with Ewing a little bit, Mutombo was in his prime, all these kinds of things. So it kind of got me thinking, like I said, that little thing in the back of my head, maybe he just kind of snuck right in there. So
Well, I'll say this though, he also made a finals in that era. I mean, he lost. But,
right,
I mean,
yeah.
He did get to a finals, and I will say you're not going to find somebody that's going to argue more passionately that Shaq should have stayed longer and played with Penny.
Yeah.
Especially since it's not like he left Penny to go straight to Kobe. Kobe didn't show up for like 4 more years. Like he played there with like Nick the Quick and Eddie Jones for like 3 or 4 years there, and was a first round exit a lot. If he'd have stayed and played with Penny, they might have won a championship, or at least been a heavy contender for those seasons. And then if he'd left and gone and played with Kobe, maybe he'd have 5 or 6 championships instead of, and I'd be sitting here talking about my all time favorite player in Penny Hardaway having a championship or 2. But some of that's just plain bias. I mean, because I love the Magic, I love Penny, and I was pissed off when Shaq left because Penny had just taken a step to like be that next level guy. They had just beat Mike.
Yeah.
Like it was, these guys were, they looked like, well, it kind of reminded me of that Thunder team that made the finals, and you're like, they lost, but they weren't supposed to win, and now they're going to be in the finals or right there every year for the next foreseeable future. And then Shaq's like, you know what? I really want to make some movies. I'm going to move to L.A. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Wasn't there, didn't someone pay someone that was not, well, maybe it was back then, but now we don't know. Obviously, because I don't know who it is, and Shaq got mad about it.
Because Penny got his big deal to do Little Penny stuff.
No, not that. I'm talking about like actual contract, like his actual contract.
Yeah, there was
the Houston
somebody else
Rockets
got a
signed someone.
big contract, and Shaq wanted bigger.
Because he was like, I'm better than him. I deserve more money. I can't remember who it was.
I don't know. It probably talks about it. What do they call that? They did a 30 for 30 on Shaq
Right,
and Penny.
yeah.
Like that
And that may
magic
have been where
moment
we
or
saw
something.
that. But I remember what you're talking about, Drew, because the GM of the Magic had made him an offer, and then right after he made Shaq the offer, this big contract came out for somebody else, and Shaq's offer wasn't as high. But in the GM's defense, when he made the offer, that other contract wasn't out there yet.
Yeah.
And Shaq kind of used that to say, "Oh, you're disrespecting me," and
Yeah.
Well, let's just be honest, though. Regardless of whether he was great or not, which I think he was a prima donna and a shit stirrer.
oh yeah,
I mean, he just was. I mean, no matter what side you take on the Kobe Shaq stuff, Shaq has faults in that. And
sure.
he's, even once they, things were like out on the table, the public knew what was going on, they weren't getting along and everything, you thought like, oh, maybe these, maybe since it's public now, they'll calm down or whatever. Shaq would just go out in the media and stir the shit.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's just who he was. Like, he did it with Pat Riley in Miami.
yeah.
He got into it with Penny in Orlando. I mean, he, out of his own mouth, says it was blatant jealousy that drove him a wedge between him and Penny, because he was jealous of Penny making all those commercials with Lil Penny, and he couldn't handle not being the most popular guy on his team. Even though the offense completely ran through Shaq in Orlando.
Right.
I mean, people see, if you look at Penny highlights, there are so many Shaq dunks and Penny highlights because so many highlights are him making fantastic passes into
Yeah.
Shaq. Not only that, but Penny became like a dominant scorer after Shaq out of necessity.
Right, because Shaq was gone.
Yeah, and he was he was their best player by far now. But it was before that, Penny was a facilitator first. You know, and he scored, but the offense ran through Shaq. And, I'm not saying it shouldn't have. It should have. Shaq was so dominant. But he couldn't handle it. Then he goes to L.A., flounders for a few years. Then Kobe gets there and becomes Kobe. And they win those titles. But then he can't get along with Kobe.
Right. Shaq wanted a little brother, and Kobe was nobody's little brother.
No, and they were very completely different.
Yes.
But, I mean, to Shaq's defense, it seemed like the thing that completely sabotaged their relationship, or at least brought it public, was when Kobe had his rape case.
Right.
He threw Shaq under the bus and said, well, this has happened to Shaq twice, but he pays people off and doesn't let it get in the media.
Yeah.
Which was a total low blow from Kobe.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to speak ill of Kobe, but, like, why would you
Right.
say that?
Yeah. There's no reason to drag anybody else into that.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at that point, you're probably like, well, we're probably lucky Shaq didn't kill Kobe.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, if they actually really got into a fight, that's what would happen.
Right. As
Like-
big as Shaq was.
Yeah, like, there's just...
He just lay on Kobe. He would literally just lay on Kobe. He doesn't have to do anything.
And he's just like... Their relationship couldn't get along. He ends up getting shipped there, but then he gets into a Pat Riley, can't get along with Pat Riley, and gets shipped. And then, to be honest with you, I don't remember why he got shipped out of Phoenix. I don't remember if it was a problem with him, or they just traded him, or what the case was.
Yeah, then it was just Phoenix and then Cleveland and Boston to kind of end
it out there. Yeah. But Shaq struggled to get along with people. I mean, there's no secret, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's another what if. What if him and Kobe could have made it work? Like, do they win 5 or 6 together?
Well, I remember watching the finals that they lost to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, Shaq was checked out. I think Shaq knew at that point that he couldn't get out of L.A. if they won. Dr. Buss was keeping them together as long as they won. And I think Shaq was checked out. I don't think he purposely lost. I would never say that about him because I don't think he ever would do that. But he just was not the same guy in that series that we had seen in other series.
The way I looked at it that year was because Shaq was, in that finals, he was like 26-10 on 63%. Mm-hmm. So he was super, super efficient. The way I looked at that series, though, was Shaq was like, oh, Kobe, you want to be the man? Go be the man. See how it works for you.
Well, he didn't play defense.
Yeah.
His defense was terrible in that series. They pick and rolled him to death, and he wouldn't cover it.
Yeah, well, Shaq went through periods of time over his career where he didn't play defense.
Yeah.
Or didn't play help defense, at least. And then he would turn it on and be really, really good defensively for stretches.
He could when he wanted to.
Yeah. It boils back down to laziness and effort.
And I think that was part of the problem that he and Kobe had.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kobe could see how much talent he had, and he could also see when he wasn't using it. And Kobe was never very diplomatic about that.
Yeah.
So when you get to their relationship, there's plenty of blame to go around for both of them.
Yeah.
They both handled that very poorly. And I've always thought, how many titles could they have won if they could have learned to get along?
100%. Because here's the thing. We can look at all sorts of teams that play today or played in the past. not all stars that play together are friends.
Right.
Bird and McHale don't get along,
Yeah.
but they kept it professional as far as basketball players.
Yeah.
And you're good, I'm good. We're gonna win basketball games.
Let's win.
Yeah,
Right.
Like I mean, that's really the. It's not. I mean, not that they didn't get along, but Magic and Kareem weren't friends.
Right.
Jordan and Pippen,
Yeah.
they're not friends. I mean, it's just. How often do you ever see the Golden State guys off the basketball court together?
Right.
I mean, I don't live in San Francisco, but I don't ever see them like hanging out or videos of them at the club or anything. It's just when they're on the basketball court, they and they say nice things about each other in interviews, but I don't see them like, oh yeah, he was over at the house the other night. Like it's just
Right.
it's a work relate. I mean, I have plenty of guys I work with, and they're fine, and I like them at work, but we don't go hang out after work all the time. You just gotta. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. They couldn't do it. So.
Right. Yeah. So.
But while we're on the what if thing, I have a what if. We talk about like Clash of Titans, sometimes on these episodes, like, Magic and Larry or Wilt and Russell or, whatever the case may be. In 2000, okay, Shaq's best season of his career. The defending champs are the Spurs. And that's still when Robinson was good. And Duncan is, like, fantastic. And right before the playoffs, Duncan gets hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if those two teams would have... I mean, they did meet, but, I mean, Duncan wasn't... well, no. I take that back. The Duncan-less Spurs get beat by Phoenix in the first round, and Phoenix goes on to get whooped by the Lakers in the second round. So I guess what I'm saying is what if those two teams would have met in the playoffs in 2000? What kind of series would we have gotten for our eyeballs during that?
The Spurs always talk about it too, because the next year I remember when they were talking crap with the Lakers, like the only reason why you won is because Duncan got hurt. Because I remember them, they always talk about it. They're like, because I think the next year is when they sweep everybody besides AI that one game. That next year.
Was 2000 was Indiana, right, Ray?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, 2001 would have been
The Sixers.
AI, yeah.
Because the Lakers make a point of beating them badly with Duncan. But then it's another age year on Robinson, so it has its effects either way. But if you have them playing each other, I think, I don't know, can Kobe and Shaq finally grow up again and beat them, or are they just going to be second fiddle to the Spurs like they were to Karl Malone and John Stockton for a couple of years? That was their biggest problem those first couple of years with Shaq, and they could never beat Karl Malone and John Stockton. They lost every year.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is sometimes it takes teams, no matter who they are, not just Shaq and Kobe, but anybody, you got to win that first one and get over the hump, and then it seems to be easier for them for some reason.
Right. You can do it at that point.
And in 2000, they hadn't won one yet. So it was their first championship year, and the Spurs coming off one, I just think it would have been fantastic series no matter who won. I think it would have been just a 7-game series.
Yeah,
It would have been a
I think
bloodbath. Robinson and Duncan having to take turns trying to guard Shaq, and just I think people underrate also just how fantastic some of Duncan's seasons were at that time too. Duncan was phenomenal at that point. And one more what if for Shaq, okay? And, this pains me to say, but it is a great what if to think about. The year Penny was drafted, Orlando didn't draft Penny.
Mm-mm.
Orlando drafted Chris Webber and then traded him for Penny. What if they would have kept Chris Webber and Webber and Shaq would have played together for 3 years?
Horrible idea. Glad they traded for Penny.
Why is it a horrible idea?
Because the egos are too big on both guys.
Yeah.
Well, they do have ego
I think
issues. I'll give you
the
that.
ego issue would have got.
But this is early 90s. Like, big men ruled the world. outside of Jordan, I guess. But I mean, like, two dominant bigs, one of which that had a very nice 15 to 18 foot jump shot. So it's not like both of them are standing on the block all the time. Like, and both of them, but especially Weber, were very good passers. I don't know that they wouldn't have been a real force to be reckoned with. And one of the big things we talked about in the Weber episode was Weber shouldn't have been a number one.
Right.
And he wouldn't have been with Shaq.
No.
Would he have been okay with
But
that?
could he? Yeah.
Would he have been able to accept
that
the
would have
fact
been the
that he
problem.
wasn't?
That's also true. That's true. So I guess nobody's as big on it as me. Ray says no way.
No
You
way.
two don't seem that big.
I mean,
on
I
it.
think if they get the ego aside, then yes. But
I mean,
if we don't
you
get-
wouldn't have wanted to go in the paint with them.
No.
Well, I mean, you got Chris Webber that played defense when he felt like it, but then once you have the two put together, then you just got two guys who can pass and rebound, all clogged in the paint, fighting over paint points. So I mean, I don't know if that really would have worked out.
I mean, we're just a handful of years removed from Parrish, McHale, Bird, three big men playing on the same team. I mean, that was just what Bird would have been retired for like a year.
Yeah, but that team knew their roles.
I'm not saying Weber is Larry Bird. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, I know that.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for two big men to play together in that era.
I mean, no. I mean, we've seen it with Duncan and
Duncan and Robinson. That's a great
Right,
point.
yeah.
but they're two. You got Weber who's a two, arguing about being a one. You got Shaq who's a one who's gonna argue Weber. The things wouldn't have meshed. I mean, take the ego aside, maybe it would have worked out. But I mean, who's gonna be number one and who's gonna be the number two? And because they're both gonna argue about being number one.
the thing that helped Duncan and Robinson was so far into his career, he was already starting to take a step back a little bit, so it was okay for him just to let Duncan take that step.
Both of those guys were modest, down to earth dudes.
That
Yeah,
too.
that's
You
also
never
very
hear
true.
anything from.
And, Weber knew how to play with another big man because when he was at Michigan, he played with Juwan Howard.
That's true.
I mean, Howard played the center and he played the power forward. So he was used to that kind of role, but he was used to still being the star.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see how the two of them handled it.
Speaking of which, guys, let's talk about something real quick. I assume everybody by now seen Juwan Howard smack a coach.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess my question to you guys, first off, has anybody ever seen anything like that before? Because I don't remember anything like that.
No.
No, I don't. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a Jawan thing either. He's normally
Well, and it wasn't even the coach he was arguing with.
he's one of the assistants.
It wasn't the head coach. It was an
He
assistant
just goes over and
coach.
bips him. I'm like, oh.
Well, my other thing is, though, too, and maybe I'm wrong, so although I'm going to ask this question. If he's an NBA coach, does it go over better?
No, I don't think so.
I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
I think it
Because
would
he's
go
not-
over
because
better.
He's not doing it in students.
Right,
and
exactly. Because he
Right.
caused a brawl with a bunch of college students.
Yeah, that
The
made
NBA
it
players
worse.
don't care. That they
No,
try and
well,
find-
not just that. I don't even say that NBA players don't care. I just mean we're going to look at it differently because everybody in this situation is grown men
Right.
that we don't look at as kids. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
some of those kids are 18.
yeah, like, I mean, as soon as he smacks that coach, like 4 or 5 players just start throwing haymakers. Like, it was almost like he just released the dogs.
Yeah.
Like, it was like,
Coach did it, so can we.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that attitude too.
Yeah.
Coach is hitting people. We can too.
no, I'm not
We
saying,
got
I'm,
your back, coach.
I'm not saying he wouldn't have been suspended or fined or whatever if he'd have been an NBA coach. He 100% would have. I mean, when players throw hands in the NBA, they get suspended and fined. So I'm not saying he wouldn't have done that. I just think society may have looked at us differently if he was an NBA coach.
Yeah, I think they do look at professional coaches different than college coaches.
But at the same time, I also think this is a weird situation because Juwan Howard is 6'10", 260. He's not, my height. He's not, this 5'10" white guy that's, coaching basketball. like if Coach K would have smacked somebody, we'd all been like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
did that even hurt? You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. I'm not saying Coach K is better than Juwan. I'm just saying, like, it's like Juwan's huge.
Yes.
Like, we'd be scared players would crush Coach K if he tried to smack somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Juwan Howard was the biggest dude in the scrum.
Yeah.
Or Roy Williams for North Carolina. If he would have hit somebody, I mean, he's already got health problems as it is. He doesn't even get into scuffles with.
Well, he's retired now, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a weird situation.
It was a very weird situation. And what they were arguing about was,
dumb.
I mean, a timeout.
Which I get where Jerron was like, dude, what are you doing?
Right. I understand that point.
But I'm not going to fight you over it.
Right. Yeah. That's my thinking too. Is I'm like, I understand it wasn't really the right thing for the other coach to do. I mean, he made the excuse that he didn't want to put his guys in that situation. They might turn the ball over. At that point of the game, so what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who cares if you have one turnover?
And then,
Just let it go.
and the situation just kept getting worse. Like, Juwan's like yelling down the court. One of the assistant coaches gives Juwan the suck it sign.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, my gosh.
Then, like, Juwan tries to refuse to shake hands with the other coach. The coach grabs Juwan's arm, which Juwan made this huge deal about, like, he put his hands on me. Well, first off, dude, if the little 5'10" guy made you feel threatened, I feel sorry for you. But second off, like, you made it sound like when somebody says, like, they put their hands on me, like, I go to, like, there was violence.
Right. They grabbed me by my, and
Yeah, like they were
trying to manhandle you.
Exactly. Not you refused to shake his hand. He grabbed your arm and was like, dude, why didn't you shake my hand, or whatever was said, And like, Juwan, like, gets in his face and is like, don't fucking touch me, don't fucking touch me. He says it like 4 times. Okay, but then players rush in and pull you both apart. At that point, it's over.
Right. Should be.
It's over. And
Yeah.
Juwan charges back in and hits somebody.
Yeah.
Dude, you fucked up.
Right.
But as most grown adults, think, like, I walked away from the situation. It's over now. I have time to think. I need to squash this. I need to apologize. I need to realize I did something wrong. I think that's where I was at with it. Because, I mean, it was immediately everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It was on ESPN. It was on
was
Fox. It was on
everywhere.
Twitter. It was on everything. Like, it was just everywhere. You couldn't not see it. And then they put him on the podium, which I couldn't believe. First of all, they put him on the podium, and he doubles down. And I was like, "Oh my God, he's an idiot!" Like, he just doubled down on it was the right thing to do to hit somebody. And on national TV in a college basketball game, because he escalated the situation by putting his hands on me. Okay, I don't think that what the guy did was right. I'm not saying he should have grabbed your arm. But, like, was he trying to do some sort of kung fu pressure points thing onto your arm that was going to cripple you or some shit? Because, the dude's like, a foot shorter than you. Like, it looks like he's like, 10 years older than you. And, like, grabs your arm and is like, dude, why are you so pissed off? Why aren't you shaking my hand? Like, why are you being a bad sport?
Yeah.
And then, Juwan thinks the next thing to do is to hit him. Like,
Yeah.
or hit his assistant or whoever he hit.
Right. Yeah. I never did understand how it got from those two yelling at each other to him hitting the assistant.
Now, it may have been the same assistant that gave him the suck it thing.
Well, it might have been.
I don't
yeah,
know.
that very well could be.
I don't know. It was a mess situation.
It was just a bad look for all of them.
Indeed.
Now, let me ask this one. Why is it, like, after the whole fight thing and everything else, why is it the immediate action that everybody's like, oh, let's get rid of the handshake line? Like, that was the problem.
that was the problem.
Why
They
is
had to
the-
shake
right.
hands after the game.
Why is that the problem?
I think
don't
what was it,
understand.
Perkins on ESPN?
Yeah, we should get rid of sportsmanship because because somebody got in a fight. No, the handshake line didn't cause a fight. People be acting like children.
Right.
In the handshake
Exactly.
line caused a fight.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some special guy that's never been in a fight. I've been in quite a few fights in my life. It happens. But as an adult, you can look back on those things and be like, oh, I made a bad decision. I got myself in a situation I shouldn't have. I ran my mouth when I shouldn't have. I overreacted to something like a timeout.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want this to turn into a Juwan Howard bashing thing. I think Juwan Howard's been good for Michigan.
Oh, I do too.
know,
I've always liked him when he was a player.
And I
Hey,
can't.
like
sorry.
Drew said earlier, it's not what I expected from Juwan Howard.
Yeah.
Because I've watched him play since Fab 5, and that was not Juwan Howard.
Now, is Juwan Howard, is he like one of the only ones who didn't take the money, or did he take the money with everybody else?
They all took it.
They all took
Yeah, I
it.
think they all, yeah.
But that's why everybody was so pissed at Chris Webber for a while, because not only did he take the most money, but then he squealed.
Yeah.
That's why him and Jalen don't speak to this day, is because he squealed. It wasn't that he took money, because Jalen took money too. And Jalen admitted to taking money. Jalen took heat, but Jalen wouldn't tell them who. And then Weber rolled over and was like, oh, it was, I don't even remember the guy's name. It was so-and-so. And that's when relationships fell apart. By the way, one of the greatest memes I ever seen, though,
Oh gosh.
came out of this Juwan Howard situation, because it showed Juwan Howard hitting the guy, and it said, if Juwan Howard was going to hit a guy over a timeout, shouldn't it have been Chris Webber?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That is
good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Anyway, let's talk about Shaq.
Did
Yeah.
Shaq ever get in any fights with him?
Think
well,
Greg
let's see.
Ostertag.
He bitch slapped Greg Ostertag in the tunnel.
Yeah.
He tried to kill Brad Miller and missed.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
He tried to fight Charles Barkley and didn't get the better of that situation. He punched somebody. No, he did connect and punch somebody, and I'm trying to remember who it was.
Yeah, I don't remember now. Ostertag is a big man, and Shaq slapped him to the ground.
Mhm.
He was a strong man.
Yeah.
Oh, when you're 7'1", at least 325, you're.
Well, wasn't it Wade the other day that said that there were years where he showed up to camp at like 390 or something? Like that?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Wade that said that?
Ridiculous
Yeah.
weight.
Yeah, way up there. Well, then Wade also told the stories about when he was in Miami, I think it was, he was messing with the scales
Oh,
to
yeah.
stay out of Pat Riley's doghouse.
Yeah.
Not just the scales, but like they had to ride so many minutes straight on the exercise bikes at like a certain level on the bike, and he was going and turning the bikes down and like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Think if he had stayed in shape like he was in Orlando,
Yeah, man. That
how
would've been
good he
nice.
would have been. Because, truthfully, as big as Shaq was, some of the best part of Shaq's game was he had great hands.
Mm-hmm.
He could catch whatever pass you threw him. He was catching it. And he really had pretty good footwork. He was not clumsy in there. And if he had stayed in shape, no telling what he would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no joke. Well, let's just put it this way, guys. The NBA changed the defensive rules because of Shaq.
Yeah.
They instituted that you're able to play a zone because of Shaq after the 2000 season.
Right.
Before the 2001 season started, they implemented that you were able to play a zone because nobody in the league could handle them, and there were multiple franchises, one of which being the Suns and Colangelo, were throwing a fit because they're like, what are we supposed to do with this guy? We can't handle him. By the way, speaking of Shaq's dominance, I saw a quote by Danny Crawford, the ex-referee, and said that Shaq was impossible to referee because on every single possession on offense, Shaq fouled the defensive player multiple times, and they fouled him just as many times back.
Right.
He's like, so a lot of referees just decided Shaq's going to catch the ball, and we're going to swallow our whistles, and they're just going to beat the shit out of each other down there.
Okay. That's my
Because,
kind of ref. Yeah.
Let's be 100% real. Name another player in NBA history that could just take their shoulder and slam it as hard as they could into the person in front of them and not get called for a foul.
Dwight Howard.
But Dwight didn't. Dwight, that wasn't Dwight's offense. Dwight didn't catch the ball on the block and just bowl people over. That's not who he was.
Yeah, that was definitely who Shaq was, though.
Shaq did it 20 times a night.
Yep.
I mean, dude, Dikembe Mutombo, the year they met Philly in the finals, was the defensive player of the year. He's one of the greatest defensive big men of all time. And what I say his numbers were, 33, 15, and 4.
Yeah, he got beat down.
I mean, Shaq was a force.
But Mutombo had like 16 points that series, which I was really surprised about. So
What was that? 4 points a game, or
no, it was the average for the series.
oh, he averaged.
Oh,
16.
yeah.
Yeah, 16 for
You
the
said
series.
he had 16 points for the
No,
series. I was
not like. Damn, that would have sucked for him. But no, it was 16 average for the series.
I've really been trying to find this video of Shaq slapping Greg Ostertag.
No, it's not on video. It was in the tunnel.
Right.
It was a bunch of players were just talking about it afterwards. That's how we all knew about it.
Okay. That I was really looking for. I find him almost killing Miller. I said
Yeah.
he misses, and I'm like, oh crap.
Mm.
All right, let's look here. I got the 2001 finals pulled up. Philadelphia 76ers. Dikembe Mutombo averages 16 points and 12 rebounds. Yes, he did. That's a good series for Dikembe.
Yeah, probably his best.
I mean, Iverson averaged 35.
Yeah. And
Nobody else averaged more than 6.
And what was the series, like 4-2 or something?
4-1.
4-1.
The Sixers won the first game, actually.
Yeah. That was the wasn't that the Iverson step game? Where he steps
Oh,
over Tyronn
Tyronn
Lue?
Lue, yeah.
By the way, you want to do another what if here, guys? I know I have a lot of these for this episode, but I think it's entertaining.
I mean, there's a lot with Shaq.
What if Robert Horry doesn't throw a temper tantrum again, another temper tantrum thing, doesn't throw a temper tantrum and throw a towel in the face of his head coach in Phoenix and get shipped to the Lakers
Yeah.
to play with Shaq and Kobe?
Right. Oh, yeah, because Big Shot Bob was
Big shot by.
he
Who
was
was it?
excellent for the Lakers.
Who's that guy for the Kings? Crap. I said, it's just luck. He can't do that again if he wanted to.
I don't know.
It was the big guy that was.
Divac?
Yes. I can't
Oh,
remember.
yeah, Vlade.
He has to, because Ori has that one game winner against him. He said, that was pure luck. Robert couldn't do that again if he ever tried. I'm like, that's literally his job.
Well, I don't say the shots luck. We've seen him take so many big shots, but the play was luck. The ball just bounced to him.
That
You
part
know,
was luck.
That part is luck, like, because somebody else shot the ball. Was it Fisher? Shoots the original and just bounces off the rim
it
and
all just
right
bounces.
to Ori.
Yeah.
And he shoots it again, and you're like, what?
Hey, is Robert Horry in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so.
Thank God. Thank
He has like
God.
7 championships, so
Yeah,
I
but-
wouldn't say. I don't know that he is, but I wouldn't be like stunned if he was.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Let's see, Robert. No, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Good. He don't need to be there.
With career averages of 7 points and 4 rebounds.
7 championships.
He only shot 42% from the field.
I mean, to be honest, I think Robert Horry is fine with his 7 championships not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean,
Okay, so they have like the age-old question, like, would you rather be Robert Horry or Charles Barkley?
I think I'd rather be Charles Barkley. I think I'd get a little more respect, out of my career than Robert Horry's 7, bench titles.
No, I'm being honest with you. I agree with you. Like, I would be Charles Barkley
Yeah.
because I'm one of the best players in the world, year in and year out. I don't have a title, yes, but how much can Robert Horry really hang his hat on winning these championships? I'm not saying he was nothing or didn't contribute.
especially the first 2 in Houston with Olajuwon.
Yeah, he at least
Or
started
even
for that team.
even
right?
the last couple with Spurs.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
a deep
Yeah.
bench player.
I think one of the Laker ones he might have started.
I think he was started for one of them. Yeah,
I think the last one he finally started.
Because Horace Grant starts in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Is that the first one or the second one?
No, I think Horace retires after that one. I think.
I don't remember. I think it's the second one. I don't know. Horace is in there for one of them. It's definitely not the last one.
I mean, by the end of Ori's career, they just pretty much kept him around for the playoffs. You know, that's what he was there for.
Big shot Bob.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But yeah, anyway. Let's get back to Shaq. Shall we do litigation?
Sure.
All right. Ray,
Yeah.
I have two good ones here for you.
All right.
Why you got Doc ahead of Shaq?
A little bit more versatile, I guess. I think that's about it.
Versatile how?
I mean, early Shaq was pretty versatile. Then you got later Shaq, what became kind of just down in the paint kind of person. Just kind of hanging out.
Isn't that how basketball was played for like 60 years?
I mean, that's true, but I mean, I guess Doc was a little bit more exciting. Shaq was a little exciting from time to time, but
Well, I'll give you, if you're talking about excitement, watching Shaq play wasn't like jaw dropping. It could be boring at times.
Yeah.
You know, you throw the ball into him, he goes bang, bang, dunk.
Or three people come and guard him, he gets it for an easy layup.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that.
I mean, I don't know. They're just two different type of players.
They are.
Shaq, stat wise, a little more dominant. I don't know.
He's the best player on 3 championship teams.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one, man. It's a tough one.
All right. Last one for you, Ray. Why is Dirk ahead of Shaq?
Probably more consistent. I mean, Shaq stayed consistent, but I mean, Dirk kind of, dominated like a good. I mean, pretty much his whole career was same stat line. Shaq, you got a good stat line for like 8 years, and then it's just kind of like Bosch level stats. But I mean, that one's kind of iffy one too. I mean, we're getting to the point where it's like snipping hairs here.
Yeah, it's nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I'll leave you alone.
Okay.
Drew.
Oh boy.
I'm trying to remember which way I'm going here. Do you got your list real quick? I'm sorry.
Well, who is it? I can probably tell you.
It's Dunk. I'm gonna ask you about Duncan, whoever. But I don't remember which way is which.
I'm trying to remember. Do I have Duncan ahead of Shaq or not? Yeah, we need to look at it.
Yes. I'm sorry, this is terrible. Oh, why do you have Shaq ahead of Duncan? That's what I was gonna ask you.
I'd probably go with, I don't know. I think I probably like Shaq's quick, dominant 5 to 6. That period where he just like, not just winning, but like he just dominated everything. I don't know. I think I probably that a little bit longer than Tim Duncan's longevity because that's definitely what he has. I think. I don't know that. I don't know. It's there's just so much. I don't even know, honestly. I just think Shaq, just by a little bit, I think it's just more dominant of a player, I think, by what he does. Like,
Well, I'll say this: we talked about boring. Duncan is the epitome of boring.
that too. He's just not.
Yeah.
There's no flash.
Those Spurs teams were not flashy. Like, you know.
No, they're not.
Nope.
No, Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan were not.
But I will say this: Duncan is hella consistent for a long, long time.
They get the job.
He has an
done.
argument to be maybe the greatest defensive player ever.
Oh, I've got one when the Duncan episode comes up. Remind me of my what if, because I have one for his.
You know, he has 5 championships. He has 2 MVPs. He has one of the most all defensive teams ever. He has like the second most all NBA teams ever. He's, you know, multiple Finals MVPs. He's a beast
for sure.
And then I got one more for you.
All right,
the other way. Why do you have Jerry West ahead of Shaq?
Jerry West. I think with what Jerry West being able to shoot like he did back then, I mean, we do have to discredit him for not winning. He should have won more, but being able to win a Finals MVP on the losing team during the Celtics era, I thought was pretty impressive. And then just being able to shoot back then when we have all these set shots just throwing crap off the backboard for him, I think his shooting would definitely translate to all eras, and so I think that was pretty impressive. And he was, I mean, it's also the logo for the NBA. I just think Jerry was a very well-rounded player. I mean, he doesn't have the titles and that team success, but I think as a player, for back then, I just think for what he did was, like, skill-wise, not team success, was outstanding, I think.
Okay. By the way, you reminded me of this, Drew. We never asked if we thought Shaq could play in every era.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll just say this, and people can disagree with me if they want. I don't think going backwards is a problem at all. The only question is whether Shaq could play today. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think Orlando Shaq could.
Yep. That's what I was
But
about
after
to say.
Orlando, I think Fat Shaq's not doing this.
Let me ask you this, though. First off, Fat Jokic plays pretty well today.
Yeah, but he can shoot.
And
Right, yeah, he's a better shooter than probably Shaq.
But here's my thing. There's not a single player, Embiid included, in this NBA that would stop Shaq from going for 40 or 50 every night.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's got to get the right coach to let him do it.
Throw it. Here's my other thing, too. And Shaq says this, and I think it's true. I think it's 100% true. Because they always say, well, how are you going to guard a center in three-point land? And he always says, I wouldn't. Because after the first quarter, they wouldn't be able to shoot anymore because I would have killed their legs.
True. Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
I'd like to see Shaq put Rudy Gobert on poster after poster.
He would, though.
Oh, he would. He'd break Rudy Gobert, too.
Rudy can't guard Jokic and Embiid.
Right.
They torch him.
I mean, yeah, Shaq would play them, but then the rest of the time, who's he playing on?
Yeah. You think Clint Capella's guarding Shaq? You think...
Or with the Warriors go small ball, Draymond Green.
You see Draymond trying to stop him?
Draymond's not stopping Shaq.
Exactly.
Yeah, Shaq could pick him up with one hand and just move him out of the way.
I mean, these teams that are trying to play small ball, he's just going to score every time. Unless they just absolutely foul the crap out of him for the whole game.
Or the same problem a lot of guys... Like, the same problem Mutombo had with a lot of other guys. You might be as tall as me, but you're too light.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, okay, you're 7 foot. Okay, cool. But you weigh 240.
Yeah.
I'm going to move you.
I weigh 320 plus,
Yeah.
and I'm strong.
I just think, okay, yeah, he might give up some threes to centers. But how many centers in the league are actually, like, knockdown shooters?
Right.
We're not talking about Dirk.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about guys that shoot mid to low 30s.
I mean, if you're going to lose to Jokic and Embiid shooting threes, kudos to them.
But here's the other part. They're like, well, we would just put Shaq in the pick and roll, and he wouldn't be able to keep with our guards. Lakers Shaq, or late Lakers Shaq, that's true. He wouldn't be able to keep up with guards if you switched. But there are plenty of centers in the league today that don't switch.
Right.
Jokic doesn't switch. For the most part, Embiid doesn't really switch.
Mm-mm.
Nikola Vucevic doesn't switch. Valanciunas doesn't switch. Gobert doesn't switch.
Right.
He's Defensive Player of the Year.
Every year.
Yeah.
So I think Shaq not only could play today, but offensively he would just be an absolute monster.
And
More of a monster than he was then.
I think his assist numbers will go up today, too, because you just put 4 shooters around him.
You
And
would.
when they collapse,
You would do for Shaq what they do for Giannis.
Right.
There's
Yep.
4 shooters standing at the 3-point line. You're going to go into the post, but instead of driving into the post, he's just going to be standing there and you're going to give him the ball.
Right. Just
On
gonna
the
throw
ball.
And
him
if
the
someone
ball.
doesn't come running at him, he's going to dunk on you.
Yeah, he's either going to dunk on the guy one-on-one or you're going to leave a shooter to come get him. And he's going to throw to that shooter because Shaq is a good passer.
Right.
I think Shaq will be more dominant today than he was in his prime.
Yeah, I think Shaq can play anytime.
Yeah, that makes I mean, I guess you kind of look at it the same way now we drop Steph Curry in and he kind of changed everything. Maybe if we drop Shaq back in, now you got
Might change it back.
change it back because now you have to force yourself to put a center down
Yeah, so
there.
everyone's
and
going to have to
guard.
get
Who,
some big.
who are the 3 best players in the NBA this year?
I'd say Giannis,
Embiid.
Embiid.
Yep.
I'd say John Morant, maybe.
Well, I was going to say Jokic.
Oh, that
They're,
too.
they're
Yeah.
having 3 historic seasons. They're all 3 big men.
Yeah.
The big men are coming back. It
I
just
hope
looks
so.
slightly different.
Right.
You don't throw the ball to the block anymore. You throw the ball to the elbow, and you give them the ball in specific spots. But Giannis essentially does what Shaq did. Not saying like throw the ball on the block and go to work, but I mean he's just strong. He moves guys
Yeah.
and gets dunks.
He's taking
You know?
the 2022 approach to what Shaq did.
Well, yeah,
Right.
that's,
It's just
that's
that
true.
his era of basketball, he's just doing it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Embiid bullies guys when he gets good matchups.
Oh,
But then
yeah.
he also has a nice jump shot.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
watching a little bit of the Sixers game before, and he's got that nice little fade. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
Yeah,
all adjusted
absolutely.
to it. They're just the big guys are going to shoot. They're not just going to stand there and shoot 2-footers.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay.
All right, Uncle Doug.
Yep.
Back to litigation. Why do you have Kobe ahead of Shaq?
Okay. I figured this might come up. I think I have them. Yeah, they're just one
They're
spot
back to
ahead.
back, yep.
Yeah. Kobe's got one more title. He scores more. Kobe's got more on defense than Shaq. That's probably it.
Well, the reason I found this one interesting is because Kobe has more titles,
Hmm.
but Shaq is the best player on more championship teams.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. And they each have one MVP.
Yeah, they each
But
have one.
Shaq has more championship MVPs. Doesn't he
Yeah.
have 3 to Kobe's 2?
He has 3, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I have them right there together, and that's probably the defense and a little more scoring. And
You have them back to back. Wade has them at one spot, like there's one person between them. I have them back to back. Ray has them back to back. And, gosh dang it.
Mine are probably close.
I don't even see yours or your list. What the hell did I do with it? And Drew has them a couple spots apart, but
yeah.
like it's
They're linked together for life.
yeah.
Whether they like it or not.
Well,
Right.
honestly, I've looked at my list recently and I've noticed I have a pattern. Shaq and Kobe are back to back. I have the Mailman and Stockton back to back, and I have Bird and Magic back to back.
Well, when you
Okay.
play either on their team together or like in that
Yeah.
same time period, you just link them together and it like.
Yeah. All right, I got one more for you, Uncle Doug.
Okay.
I guess it's the same thing I asked Drew, but why do you have Shaq ahead of Duncan?
Well, I was looking at that because I thought you might ask me that. And that's one where Shaq's numbers are just slightly better, but Tim's accolades are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, again, I think I have them back to back.
Yeah, he's on the other side of Shaq.
Right, yeah. And that could easily, I feel like I could switch those two. They are so close. I think because I'm a Laker fan, I probably gave Shaq a little. And Shaq kept himself in your thoughts. I mean, whereas, like you say, Tim was, and those Spurs teams weren't flashy, Shaq always was out there.
Yeah.
Well, of course. he was.
Always.
That's very true. Very true. Well, does anybody have any litigation questions for me before we wrap up
Uh,
litigation?
No, I'm back to the normal. Not looking at your list till now.
Sorry, I was kind of hogging the list there for a minute, so that's probably my fault this time.
It's all right.
Why you got Kobe ahead of Shaq?
I think it did boil down for championships with me, but to be honest with you, I thought about it a lot on the way here, because I actually made my litigation list, like on the way here and when I first got here, so I was a little running late on my prep today, but I think there's a case to switch it, but I don't know that I will because of the things that bother me about Shaq. There's so many. I mean, and maybe it's unfair because you'd say there's a lot of what if with Shaq. Like, what if he'd have stayed in shape? What if he'd have done this? What if he'd have done this? Taken it more seriously, he might have. Well, we talked about in the KD episode where I said, KD has the potential to enter elite status. Top 10, top 8, top 5 maybe. I think Shaq's one of those guys that should be in top 5. Not could be, should be. And he's not because of his own doing. So, yeah. Any others?
Why is LeBron ahead of Shaq?
I think LeBron is just. I just think LeBron's in a different class than Shaq, unfortunately. And I'll be honest with you, it's not really rough for me to say because I'm sure Uncle Doug remembers this. I couldn't stand Shaq when he played. Shaq has softened me a lot on TNT because I like him on TNT. But I couldn't stand Shaq when he played. And some of that was because of the way he did Orlando. But I also just didn't like his style of play. I thought it was bullshit, for lack of a better
I was
way.
going to say bullcrap that he just...
it's funny you say that because, I mean, I was a Laker fan,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked Orlando Shaq. I wasn't that crazy about Laker Shaq.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, I didn't like the way he played.
Yeah.
But I liked him in Orlando.
Now, the way he played, though, especially, 2000, 2004, whatever, he was flat dominant. He was the best player in the league.
No doubt.
He was the best player in the league, no doubt. But it just wasn't, I didn't like it.
Right.
And I don't like LeBron. I mean, I think that's been made fairly clear over the course of this podcast. But I think LeBron is in a different class than Shaq, personally.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I don't have any other questions, but can I touch on the whole Kobe Shaq thing?
Sure.
I think I know no one asked me why I have Kobe ahead of Shaq, but I think one of the reasons why is because I think Kobe's championships without Shaq, without each other, are better. He did it 2 times, Shaq did it once. Kobe kept a home where Shaq was bouncing around from place to place trying to find a home.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And this is a what if again, but what if Shaq and Penny win the championship against the Olajuwon and they each have 5? What does that do to this conversation?
Well, if they win Orlando, is Shaq going to
Well,
leave?
Well, I mean that's a very fair question.
We open up a can of worms.
But I'm saying if they each have 5,
That is true.
what does this do to the Kobe Shaq comparison?
Well, he's going to get another Finals MVP, obviously. So he's up to 4.
Right.
4 for
yeah.
5.
I think he probably slides back ahead of Kobe.
And he beats Olajuwon, and he gets a title
right.
when Michael's gone. So now you have Olajuwon, Shaq, and Michael in the 90s instead of just Olajuwon and Michael.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you never know, with that confidence, they might beat Jordan the next year. Like, because they get over the hump finally. So,
That's true.
Yeah,
and
that's a
with
good
Ray
point.
saying that young, talented roster, you might have a
Right.
Magic dynasty.
Right. And if they're getting rings, like you said, Shaq may not leave.
As long as
How
Shaq's
many rings
happy.
does Orlando get then?
Yeah.
And then you're affecting other careers, like maybe Penny Hardaway is the top 50 player of all time, as long as Penny doesn't hurt his knee in that scenario.
Well, I've often struggled with that because obviously Penny's my favorite player, but it's always like, well, if Shaq would have stayed, Penny got hurt a few years later, and that could have ended their dynasty, which is a very fair assessment. But would Penny have gotten hurt if he didn't have to carry a shit franchise
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
3 years?
He's not asked to
Right. He's not
play
asked
his
to do
balls
so
off
much.
40 minutes a game every night. He's still passing it in the Shaq and scoring when he has to.
Mhm.
So, I think.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he still does get hurt. Anyway, should we, unless somebody else has another litigation question for me,
No.
should we give our closing statements?
Yeah.
By the way, before we go to closing statements, they just announced that Durant's going to play tomorrow.
Yes. Well, I say yes, but what about fucking Ben Simmons? Where has this goofy bastard been?
Well, they're saying he might not play for like 3 more weeks.
Are you? Why? What is the reason?
Oh, he's got to get ready.
James Harden was ready in a week and put up phenomenal 2-day numbers.
Ray,
Hey,
he's got to get mentally ready.
He's got to get his head in the right place, right?
yeah, he's got to pull it out of his ass. That's the simple thing. That's the only thing he's got to do. Oh my God. All right, I'm ready. Fucking Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons
All
for
right,
3.
closing statements. Let's do reverse order, Ray.
All right. Like I've said, I know he's a phenomenal player, but sometimes he's got that little quirk about him like I got with LeBron where I don't like LeBron, but it's mostly because he hold himself back. Like I feel like they had that extra step that they could, do, and they didn't do it. They got complacent, whatever, and this is where we're at. But I mean, they're both phenomenal players, but it's just they know they could be greater, and they held back. So that's kind of where I'm at with Shaq. But I mean, the 3 titles he won, flat out just killed it. But other than that, you can't knock Shaq for a whole lot of stuff because he just flat out killed you.
Yeah, almost literally.
Yeah.
That's me. Shaq is the most dominant run of anybody in my lifetime. Those 3 years in LA are just ridiculous. I mean, I never got to see Wilt play, or I don't even know. That may be the only comparison physically to the physical dominance Shaq put on the league. Like Ray said, there were times he wasn't ready. There was times he didn't show up. There was times he, was out of shape. Those types of things. And that's really what holds me back some on him. And the fact that, he couldn't get along with people and into dynasties because of it, or potential dynasties even. I mean, if he can figure out a way to get along with Kobe, maybe there's more championships there. If he doesn't get jealous of Penny, maybe there's championships there. If he can get along with Pat Riley and stay in shape, maybe there's more championships with him and D Wade in Miami. I mean, there's just so much what if because of questions he brought on himself. Not because he had bad injuries like Grant Hill or Penny. Not because the league shut down or anything out of his control. It was because he didn't want to stay in shape, because he wanted to do other things, which I'm not going to say people shouldn't be able to do other things, like act or be a rapper or, whatever. That's fine, but not when you come in 70 pounds overweight because of it.
Haven't touched a basketball since the last game he played last year.
Yeah. So that's my closing statement on Shaq, and that will lead us to Drew.
Kind of what you guys said. At times, Shaq, best player in the league, best player wanted to be. Other times, he's overweight, barely getting up and down the court, hurting the team at the beginning of the year, so then they have to have the second half of the season comebacks just to try and get the spot they were supposed to have to begin with all the time. Sometimes they didn't get it. They didn't get their home court advantage like they wanted to. They had to go other places. I mean, sometimes they still got the job done most of the time, but I don't know. Sometimes he hurts the team more than he benefited himself with some of the stuff, I think. But Shaq utterly dominated when he needed to. Like Alex said at the beginning, in the playoffs and big games, Shaq stepped up. He did this, but why couldn't he have done it all the time? So I'll leave that there.
All right, and Uncle Doug.
Yeah, I think you guys have covered most of it. Shaq, again, is one of our big what-if guys. I mean, he has great accolades. He put up great numbers, super dominant for several years. And you just think, what if he had stayed in shape? What he could have done. How many titles there'd be out there. How many points he would have scored, rebounds he would have grabbed. It's a phenomenal talent.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that will end our Shaq portion of this episode and move us into trivia. And I assume Drew.
Yep. All right. What is the most amount of All-Star Game appearances without an All-Star Game MVP?
I like that. Shaq has 3 All-Star Game MVPs.
I think he co-MVP 2 of them.
Did he?
Yeah. I thought about asking that, but I was like, nah.
That's really a thing. You co-MVP
Yeah,
an All-Star game.
Yeah, he has the most co-MVP All-Star games. I'm like, why can't we just give it to one person?
I didn't think that was such a serious thing to have that you got to let somebody else co it. Wow. Who could it be?
You know, though, and be honest with you, I can't even tell you year to year who wins the All-Star Game MVP.
No.
Yeah, I can't either. I don't even. When I'm writing down stats, I don't even write that down.
No.
I'm not a big All-Star Game fan.
I mean, to be honest with you, we always say at every episode how many All-Star games they have, but we never talk about it.
I don't think
We never bring it up.
Never.
It's not like
No.
we think. Not like we put a lot of stock into All-Star Game appearances.
No, the All NBA looks way better than.
Anyway, I got a guess.
Okay.
Me too. I gotta guess.
Yep.
Oh, we asked for a number or a person?
Number.
Oh
Okay.
shit! I had a person written down.
Oh.
I'll tell you the person afterwards.
Damn. All right, I got one.
All right.
I said 12.
Okay.
I said 13.
All right.
I said 14.
It is 19.
Oh,
Whoa.
wow.
Kareem never won an All-Star Game MVP.
Wow.
Interesting.
I'd have been wrong with the person too because I had Duncan written down.
Oh.
I was all those years. I was really surprised when Kareem didn't get one.
I knew he didn't later, but I thought maybe he would have got one early on. But good question.
All right, who'd like to go next?
I'll go ahead.
All right.
All right. Who was the first top 5 pick from Florida State in NBA draft history?
I don't think I can name a Florida State basketball player in the NBA.
I mean, I know a few, but none of them that were like really good that would maybe go top 5. What the heck? Uncle Doug was confident. Though.
No, it's just because I know a player. That's why. It's just a guess.
Wow, I can't.
The first Florida State player to go top 5, right?
Who was the first top 5 pick from Florida State in NBA draft history?
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure this guy even went top 5, but it's a Florida State player I know.
I don't know a Florida State player. I don't think. I'm just trying to think. Oh crap.
Where do you come up with this shit, Ray?
It's called Books Off Kindle.
And shout out Kindle if you want to give a sponsorship.
Yeah, for real.
Oh man, I don't even know what to write down.
This is pitiful.
It is. But just in case, I'm going to write down somebody I know is from Florida State. But I don't think they were top 5. I'm almost 100% positive they weren't, actually.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I just wrote a first name and the last name down, hoping for the best.
Okay.
All right.
I put Landon Collins.
I said Charlie Ward.
So did I.
Okay, the correct answer is Dave Cowens. Cowens was selected 4th overall in the 1970 draft, where Sura was the 17th overall pick in 1995. Charlie Ward was taken 26th overall, and while Joe Smith was taken number 1 overall, he attended the University of Maryland, not Florida State. So
I about wrote Joe Smith down. Not gonna lie.
Wow, I did not know Cowens came from Florida
I didn't
State.
either. I had no idea that he went to Florida State.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice question, Ray.
Thank
yeah,
you,
no
thank you.
kidding, man. I knew Charlie Ward, went to Florida State and won the Heisman in
Right.
football.
Yeah.
And I knew we took Jonathan Isley just a couple years ago pretty high in the draft out of Florida State. But I was like, somebody had to go before like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was like, who would have been?
So, all right.
All right, Uncle Doug.
All right, well, I'm going to stick with my draft info here. 92 draft. Shaq was number 1. How many Hall of Famers came out of the 92 draft?
Ooh.
Counting Shaq or not counting Shaq?
Counting Shaq.
Okay. All right, I got an answer.
Ooh, let's go with. Okay.
Way to go, Drew.
I tried my best not to. Ray wasn't making any weird faces over there, so it must not have been that.
No, I heard it.
I'm sure he did, but it wasn't.
Well, have any of you ever listened to the Joe Rogan podcast?
No.
I watch snippets from time to time.
I'm
but
not,
I won't
and I'm
watch
not
the
trying to
whole
get
thing.
political here because obviously that's not what we're here to do. So I'm not promoting anything, but I have listened to episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast, and first off, it is the most popular podcast in the history of the world by like a landslide. But he doesn't edit his podcast, and there's stupid stuff like that, like dropping mics and messing up mic poles and stuff like that. And like every episode, stuff just happens, and he doesn't cut it, and nobody seems to care. So
Yeah.
maybe
I
I mean, not that I'm saying we do bad things. I just mean like we really fuss over like stupid sounds like that and everything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not as big a deal as we think it is. I don't know.
As long as we're not doing it like 10 times an episode.
Right, yeah.
But one over here and there, it's not.
So we all got an answer.
I do, yeah.
I put 3.
But 6.
Put 4.
Alex is correct.
Wow.
It's Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, and the third one is Christian Laettner.
Christian Laettner.
Well, it's because he's a Hall of Famer on a team. He went into the Hall of Fame as a member of the Dream Team.
Oh, the Dream Team.
Well, I'll say this.
My
I knew
God.
that him and Morning came out together, so I knew there was 2.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's got to be more than that. So I just put 3. It was
Yeah.
purely a
that
guess.
was a good one.
It was purely a guess.
That was a very good draft. It had some good players in it. So. And I was trying to tell you earlier, Drew, I think Alonzo Mourning's contract might have been the one that caused the trouble
Yeah.
in Orlando because he got a big contract about that
I think
time.
you're right. He got
And
like
Shaq wanted more money
Yeah. I
because
think
he
you're
was
right.
drafted ahead of him.
I think you're right. Does that leave me?
Yep.
All right. Steph Curry leads the NBA in three-pointers made per game with 4.6. Only one other player in the NBA is making more than 4 three-pointers a game. Who is it?
Oh. I've got 2 options. I don't know which one to write down.
I got a name. I won't say it. I've got a name down, but I don't know. If it's
Everybody got one?
Yep.
All right. Oh, sorry, Drew.
You're fine. I'll just write this down. All right. I'm ready.
Let's go.
I put Trey Young.
I said Luca.
That's what I said, Luca.
The correct answer is Fred VanVleet.
I was thinking Luca or Trey
Good old
Young.
Fred.
Wow.
Yeah. Is he the only player, like, all-star caliber player in NBA history was named Fred?
It could be.
All right. Well, after this week's tallies, the scores are as follows. Ray with 21, Uncle Doug with 44, Drew with 45, Alex with 53, and Wade with 58. And Wade's lead was cut into this week by 1 point by myself.
Uh-oh.
You better get back,
I'm
Wade.
pretty okay with that. So thanks for tuning in to our Shaquille O'Neal episode this week. And please tune in next week for our Wilt Chamberlain episode, the other side of the coin from our Russell episode last week. And thanks for tuning in to Sports the NEMO Way.